Small talk is one of the world's quietest contradictions. A simple exchange of words meant to create connection often feels like the opposite for certain people. Draining, hollow, strangely distant. They stand in a room, nod politely, offer the expected answers, yet inside there's a soft resistance. Not because they dislike people, but because shallow conversations leave them feeling unseen. For some, words hold weight. They crave depth, sincerity, something real beneath the surface. But small talk demands none of that. It asks for lightness when the mind naturally leans deeper. And so they retreat into silence, not out of avoidance, but out of longing for something truer than weather updates and practiced smiles. Small talk seems harmless from the outside. A few sentences, a predictable exchange, nothing too deep, nothing too personal. But for some people, those light, ordinary conversations feel strangely heavy. They feel draining, forced, or strangely artificial, like performing a role they never auditioned for. This chapter explores that first moment of recognition, the quiet realization that something feels off when conversations stay shallow. It examines why some individuals feel disconnected during small talk, and why these seemingly simple interactions create internal friction others never notice. For people who struggle with small talk, the discomfort usually begins long before the conversation itself. There is often an anticipatory tension, a subtle mental bracing, as though preparing for an emotional task that takes more energy than it should. It's not fear of humans, and it's not hatred of interaction. It's the sense that small talk demands something unnatural, a mask, a script, a rhythm that doesn't match how their mind or emotions work. They listen to someone talk about the weather, the traffic, the weekend, the same repeated fragments exchanged out of habit rather than meaning. And although they nod and respond politely, internally they feel a disconnect, almost like watching themselves from outside their body. Their mind begins drifting, not out of boredom, but out of misalignment. The words they're saying do not match the thoughts they're having. The moment does not match their inner world. This is the first sign. A quiet sense of dissonance, a gap between conversation and authenticity, a feeling of speaking without really saying anything. People who dislike small talk often crave emotional truth. The way some people hunger for food or warmth, they hunger for depth, meaning, realness, connection that isn't rehearsed. They prefer silence over shallow exchanges, not because they reject others, but because silence feels more honest than speaking without purpose. To them, surface-level dialogue is like treading water. They can do it, but it does not carry them anywhere. There is no emotional movement, no shared understanding, no moment of real presence. It leaves them feeling untouched, unseen, unengaged, as if they played a role in a scene that didn't matter. And yet, small talk is everywhere. At work, at gatherings, at family events, at every doorway of human interaction. It is the bridge society uses to cross from stranger to familiar. But to the person who dislikes small talk, that bridge feels unnecessarily long. They wish they could simply appear at the other side, the place where conversations feel natural, sincere, and meaningful. This creates a silent internal conflict. They are not trying to be rude. They are not trying to distance themselves. They are not trying to appear cold or uninterested. They simply struggle to stay present in conversations that do not nourish them. It's like eating food that looks appealing but has no taste. It satisfies a social expectation, but not an emotional need. There is also an unspoken fear beneath this discomfort, the fear of being misunderstood. People who dislike small talk often worry that others will mistake their quietness for arrogance, shyness, disinterest, or social incompetence. But in reality, their mind is awake, observant, sensitive to details that others overlook. They notice tone, pauses, expressions, the energy behind words. They feel more than they say and think deeper than they reveal. This sensitivity is both a gift and a challenge. A gift because it allows for profound emotional awareness. A challenge because it makes superficial interactions feel hollow. And so they walk through the world in a strange balance, wanting connection, but only the kind that feels real, wanting conversation, but only the kind that doesn't feel empty. This is the inner beginning of the story, where discomfort and clarity quietly meet, where the outer world speaks lightly, but the inner world listens deeply. Some people dislike small talk, not because they are cold or distant, but because the way they learned to communicate was shaped by deeper emotional experiences. This chapter explores where that misalignment begins, in childhood, temperament, early relationships, and the subtle psychological patterns that teach a person how to speak, what to share, and what feels meaningful. For many, the discomfort with small talk begins long before adulthood. It starts in childhood, often quietly, subtly, without dramatic events. Some children grow up in environments where emotional depth is the normal language. Homes where conversations revolve around ideas, feelings, observations, or silence that feels safe. In these households, meaning is the default. Every conversation carries intention, curiosity, or reflection. So, when they grow older and encounter a world filled with quick surface-level exchanges, they instinctively feel out of place. They aren't used to greeting others with rehearsed script lines. They're used to speaking when there's something real to say. Other individuals grow up on the opposite side, in households where emotional expression is limited or avoided, where no one asks how you really feel, where you learn to scan beneath the surface because the surface cannot be trusted. These people learn early on that real meaning hides between words, in tones, in silence. They become observers, sensitive to what is unspoken. Small talk, with all its superficial layers, feels like noise to them. Not dangerous, not wrong, just emotionally irrelevant. There is also a biological layer. Temperament, brain wiring, cognitive style. Some minds naturally crave depth the way others crave stimulation. Introverted or introspective individuals process information internally. They think before they speak. They need time to reflect, to feel, to make sense of a moment. Small talk moves too fast and too lightly for them to fully engage. It feels like being thrown into a river with no opportunity to swim at their own pace. There is also a psychological phenomenon called low social reward sensitivity. Some people simply do not experience small talk as emotionally rewarding. Their brain does not release the same small bursts of pleasure others get from brief, casual interactions. They don't feel energized by chatting with strangers or acquaintances. They feel drained by it. This isn't a flaw, it's a neurological pattern. Another root cause lies in life experiences. People who have been through hardship, emotional trauma, or deep introspective phases often lose interest in the superficial. When someone has spent years grappling with identity, pain, or transformation, light conversation feels out of tune. Their inner world becomes too rich, too heavy, too layered to match, "How's your day?" So when they speak, they want to speak from that deeper world, not the surface. And then there are those who have been misunderstood or misread throughout their lives. When someone constantly feels unseen, small talk becomes a reminder of that invisibility. They long for conversations where their real self can emerge, where they don't have to perform or simplify themselves to fit into social norms. For many, the roots lie in loneliness. Not the loneliness of being alone, but the loneliness of being intellectually or emotionally unmatched. If someone has rarely found people who enjoy meaningful conversations, small talk becomes a symbol of that disconnect. It reminds them of how often they have had to compress their thoughts, shrink their curiosity, or hide their depth. And sometimes, the root is simple. They were born with a reflective mind, a mind that naturally gravitates toward questions, patterns, stories, and inner truths. A mind that does not find fulfillment in what is easy, predictable, or scripted. All these threads, upbringing, biology, temperament, emotional history, weave together into a single reality. Some people are not built for shallow interaction, not because they lack social skills, but because their inner world operates on a different frequency. This is the foundation, the early shaping, the origin of the quiet mismatch between a person and the world's preferred way of speaking. When you understand this beginning, you can understand the rest of the story, the psychology behind why small talk feels too small for the depth they carry. Small talk may look harmless from the outside, just a few casual words exchanged between strangers, co-workers or acquaintances. But for certain individuals, those brief conversations carry a complex mental weight, a mix of cognitive overload, emotional dissonance, and sensory strain that turns something simple into something quietly exhausting. This chapter explores the psychology behind that discomfort, why small talk drains them, what happens inside the brain, and the hidden processes that make these interactions feel unnatural. The discomfort begins with something subtle: cognitive incongruence. This happens when the mind is forced to operate in a way that contradicts its natural rhythm. Imagine a deep, reflective thinker being asked to jump between rapid, shallow topics with no time to process. Their brain isn't wired for speed, it's wired for depth. Small talk moves quickly, their thoughts move slowly. This mismatch alone creates tension, not emotional, but neurological. A second psychological layer emerges from processing depth theory. Some people naturally analyze conversations on multiple levels: body language, subtext, emotional undertones, motivations, authenticity. Their mind isn't just hearing words, it's interpreting everything surrounding the words. Small talk, however, contains no depth to analyze. It's like handing an overactive processor an underwhelming task. The brain becomes restless, understimulated, and even frustrated. This is why they often appear quiet or detached. Not because they dislike the other person, but because their mind is searching for meaning that simply isn't there. Another psychological mechanism involved is social prediction fatigue. Small talk relies heavily on quick mental predictions. Who will speak next? What is the appropriate polite response? How do I maintain eye contact without seeming intense? How do I appear interested even when my mind is elsewhere? For people with introverted or socially sensitive wiring, these micro-calculations become mentally draining. Their brain uses more energy to maintain social norms than others use effortlessly. This isn't a flaw, it's a difference in neurological load. Then comes emotional dissonance, the internal conflict between what they feel and what they must express. Small talk requires a lightness, a cheerfulness, a casual tone. But many people carry a quiet internal heaviness. Not sadness, not depression, just depth. Their inner world is reflective, analytical, observant. So switching into a small talk persona feels like temporarily wearing someone else's skin. This incongruence leads to surface-level masking, a psychological form of self-adjustment, where a person suppresses their natural mode of being to fit into social expectations. Masking, even in mild forms, consumes emotional energy. There is also a neurological factor called dopamine mismatch. Some brains are rewarded by depth, meaning, and emotional resonance. They feel alive in conversations about identity, purpose, ideas, or inner life. But small talk offers none of these rewards. It triggers no stimulation, no curiosity, no authentic connection, so the brain receives nothing in return for the energy it spends. The result is simple: the interaction becomes draining. For highly observant people, there's another layer: sensory saturation. Small talk usually happens in noisy social environments, offices, gatherings, public spaces. For someone sensitive to sound, movement, or social presence, processing the environment and the conversation simultaneously becomes overwhelming. The brain's energy is split, and fatigue sets in. Finally, there is micro-rejection fear. Not fear of rejection itself, but fear of engaging in a type of conversation where their true self cannot appear. Small talk becomes a space where misunderstanding is likely, where their depth might seem inappropriate, or where the vulnerability of being seen does not feel safe. So they withdraw, calmly, quietly, not out of arrogance, but out of self-preservation. And when the interaction ends, they don't feel connected or uplifted. They feel relieved, not because they dislike people, but because small talk demands a form of emotional and cognitive labor that their mind was never built for. This is the psychology behind the discomfort, a tangle of brain wiring, emotional complexity, and inner contradictions that turn simple conversations into quiet emotional tasks. For many people who dislike small talk, there exists a quiet contradiction, a tension that lives beneath their calm behavior, hidden even from those closest to them. They may avoid trivial conversation, yet they long for connection. They may withdraw from social gatherings, yet they crave to be understood. They may seem distant, yet they feel deeply. This chapter explores the inner world of that contradiction, where the need for meaning collides with the discomfort of superficial interaction. The conflict begins with a truth they rarely voice. They want connection, but not the kind that empties them. Small talk feels like standing in the doorway of a conversation that never opens into a real room. They can hear the echoes of people speaking, but nothing inside invites them to step deeper. It's not that they dislike people, they simply want to meet them in a space where meaning exists, behind the surface, beneath the noise, beyond polite exchanges. When conversation becomes too shallow, their mind retreats inward, not out of judgment, but out of yearning. This yearning is the first layer of the conflict, the desire to be known versus the fear of being misunderstood. They want someone to ask what truly matters to them, but they worry that answering honestly might feel too intense. They want to share their inner world, but only with someone who knows how to hold it gently. So they wait, quietly, silently, hoping that someone will open a door to depth without being asked. Another part of the conflict comes from their emotional integrity. People who hate small talk often operate with a deep sense of sincerity. Their feelings are honest, their thoughts are thoughtful. They do not speak unless something feels real to them. So when small talk requires them to pretend, to act excited, light, overly social, they feel a subtle break within themselves, a soft discomfort, like stretching an emotion that does not fit. This creates internal resistance, not to people, but to the performance of social norms. They want to stay true to themselves, yet the world often rewards those who play along. And so, a quiet battle begins. Authenticity versus adaptability. They adapt when they must. They participate when needed. They smile, nod, exchange polite words, not to deceive, but to be socially functional. Yet after these interactions, they feel drained, as though a part of their energy was borrowed by the moment and never returned. There is also the fear of emotional imbalance. Deep thinkers form bonds slowly but intensely. A single meaningful conversation can anchor them to someone for months, so giving even small pieces of themselves feels significant. Small talk, however, invites connection without the emotional grounding that makes connection feel safe. This creates another contradiction. They fear giving too much in a space that gives back too little. They do not want to attach prematurely. They do not want to expose prematurely. Yet they also do not want to live unseen. This tension becomes a constant negotiation within them. And then there is longing, a longing that remains mostly silent, a longing for the conversation that doesn't rush, the moment where someone listens without waiting to speak, the presence of another person who isn't afraid of depth, someone who doesn't need noise to feel comfortable, someone who understands that silence too can be intimate. This longing does not make them lonely. It makes them selective. It makes them patient. It makes them protective of their inner world, because they know that when they finally feel safe, when they finally feel seen, they do not talk too much. They talk beautifully. The conflict isn't a refusal to connect. It is the hope that one day, connection will not require exhaustion, masking, or performance. Until then, they remain gentle observers of the world, watching conversations from a distance, waiting for the rare moment when depth appears naturally, like a quiet truth rising beneath the surface. In the end, disliking small talk isn't a flaw. It's a quiet way of moving through the world, a preference for sincerity, a longing for conversations that feel alive. Some people are simply built to listen deeper, to feel beyond the surface, to connect where truth actually lives. They don't rush to speak, and they don't scatter their energy across 100 hollow exchanges. They wait for the rare, gentle moments when a conversation opens like a door, revealing something real inside. And when that moment comes, their silence turns into warmth, their distance becomes openness, and their depth becomes a bridge. Because beneath their quiet nature lies a heart that has always been willing to connect, just never at the cost of its authenticity.